Okay, we're live. Good morning. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by my special guest host, Mr. Darren Guy from the state of Maine. Good morning, Darren. How are you?
I'm all right, Mr. Davis. I got the fancy new headphones on, so you sound really amazing through here.
Oh, they're wireless, huh?
Yeah, I don't walk and get caught up on them. You know, when you turn, you're trying to go do something, you forget you're connected to something. Yeah,
I,
all
you know,
wireless,
I,
everything.
and before we went live, I saw that thing coming out. I thought that was the wire, and I was thinking, I wonder where his microphone is, but that's the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
microphone.
Yeah, there it is.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a pair.
Oh, that'd be great. Do they come in
I,
different color?
I don't know about that one, but I know that the friend of mine had a bunch of white ones. So,
Oh, ask him to overnight me a pair.
yes, well, I will. I can probably manage something for you like that. Hey, what a day yesterday was, huh?
Yeah, before we go to that, I want to
Yes.
show you something. You know, when I was doing a radio show for ABC Radio in Los Angeles, they required me to use this this headphone set.
Oh, wow.
You see this thing right here,
Yeah,
and
that's your mic.
they required this to be plugged in, not wirelessly, because they have so many requirements for sound and for sending out sound, and they required me to use these. As a matter of fact, I didn't even buy these. They were given to me by the studio or by ABC.
I bet they have tremendous sound, huh? They must sound
Yeah.
great and
you
sound
know
amazing.
it's funny that earphones can sound so different. I mean, those earphones that I just showed you sounded like, I was in the studio or something, right at
Mhm.
ABC. And I got those. They gave me that during COVID, because during COVID, corporate in New York was all concerned about spreading COVID and about getting sued and all that. And so they initially said that I couldn't bring in guests. I used to have guests in the studio live. And then they said, well, you can't even come in. We want you to do it remote. So I got this, you can't see it, but I have this little box here and that headphone that plugs into the internet. And if you have high speed internet, which I was required to have, it's almost like just being right in the studio.
Oh,
It's
wow.
pretty
That's
amazing
pretty awesome.
technology. Yeah, technology is amazing these days. Jacqueline says, "Cool headphones." I got to
Um,
get a pair of those. I got to get a pair of those.
I'll talk to, as soon as the show's over, I'll talk to my friend and I'll see if I can't get you a pair I can send to you. Oh,
Okay.
there's Karen's here too.
Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Oh, maybe
Okay, so
Karen.
so let's do a recap. What were you going to say? Yes, about yesterday.
Just yesterday was a good informative day. If any, for people that missed it, they should definitely check it out because it was definitely a overwhelming day. Honestly, too, for people that are in their cases, Aaron Carranza and Cynthia did an awesome job at the end where they talked about the reunification stuff. It was just a good day of good people, with Connie, with everybody. It was pretty awesome day.
Connie showed me up. She had the PowerPoint presentation,
Mm,
that she
yeah.
showed on the screen. I mean, that was awesome. And,
Hmm.
I kinda asked her, "Hey, can I steal that from you?" And I didn't really get a straight
Uh,
answer.
no, I don't think you. I don't think you kind of. I think you point blank told her that you were going to use it, and I think she agreed. To be honest.
I mean, and, I told her, I said, and I really meant this, that was one of the best presentations
It
about
was.
the CPS system that I've ever seen and I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Better than anything I've ever put together for my clients. And if I
Well,
could play that just for my clients to watch and listen to, they would have such a better understanding. I should talk to Connie. I should talk to her
I
and,
do.
to put that into a book, because she said, she spoke a lot. I can show her how to put that, download those words that she spoke, put them into text, and then merge
Yep.
that with that PowerPoint presentation. She would have a great book,
Yes, she would.
that she could give
Absolutely,
out
she
to
would.
people to educate them on, you know, the
What
system.
she did too, she definitely did it in a way that there was a tone set to it too. It wasn't like, like she would definitely let you know that she was for the favor of the family. Like this is what you are to expect. The tone to it wasn't, like CPS is great. Like she did it very professionally, but she definitely let you know that, like she's not in favor of them.
Right.
So it was very, like let you know that that's the side, like because you get involved with CPS, they give you those books, like this is what you expect and all of this. But yeah, to have an attorney give you, like here's the real version of what you're to expect and the people that you're going to be looking at. I never knew there were that many players. Even I went through my whole case, I could have never have told you that
Right.
there was 7 to 10 people in the courtroom, and like all of these things, and these statistics and everything. She had
Right.
no idea.
You
So
know,
I mean, that's
one of
that's
the
good.
one of the things, and everyone, just so you know, we did a seminar yesterday, our first seminar called First Saturday. And every first Saturday of the month, we're going to have a Zoom seminar where we have lawyers from all over the country come in and give a presentation and answer questions that I pose, that Darren and one of the other co-hosts poses. And it really turned out to be a good seminar. Now, one of the things, Darren, that I'm going to do, and I kind of alluded to it yesterday, if the attorneys will come back month after month after month, and as far as adding new attorneys, what we're going to do is take their presentation and we're going to pick a topic or two, and each month have them drill down in that topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday is kind of like an overview, but now that we can drill down, and I can ask
Right.
Connie and I can ask, Art Lasalento and Kevin Seaver, to come back and drill down. You know who was really amazing, and you had a, I don't know if you realize this, but you had almost an hour with Oroki Okorocha asking drug testing questions. And, it's one of those subjects where he could do a whole show, a whole 7 hours by himself,
Oh.
talking and answering questions about drug testing because it gets so, I don't want to say complex, but it gets so involved. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much, and every case is different. And I know you were asking questions and Deidre was asking questions, and I was asking him questions because I wanted this part, you wanted
Right.
that part, Deidre wanted
Well,
this part,
I was trying to think like you would. That's what I was trying to think. If you were in a courtroom, what type of things would you be looking to discredit? Um, what what they would be saying about him. That's what I was kind of thinking like out of the box like that. They weren't questions that I would necessarily have been so concerned with, but like thinking about, hey, if Mr. Davis is in a courtroom, what is he saying about this drug test? Is this accurate? Is this thing good? Is it going to go this way? If like, are these things right? Are they wrong? What could throw them off? Like that type of thing. That's the aspect that I was trying to look at it for. And I mean, of course, we know I'm not a lawyer, but I was just trying in that way to keep it keep it that way. But you couldn't shake that guy for nothing. I mean, it wouldn't even take him half a second to rattle an answer off to you and just keep going and going and going. It's
you, you,
crazy. That guy is genius.
I asked him a question, a legal question that is, it's kind of a trick question, to be honest with you, but it's for legal scholars. And the question I asked him was to explain the difference between the Kelly Fry standard here on the West Coast for scientific testing, drug testing, versus Daubert, which is a case, I think it's back east or in the Midwest someplace, which is a federal case. And they're different, yet they're the same. And he gave an amazing answer. He gave an answer really that I hadn't really thought about. Um, because they're the two standards. So just so everyone knows, when they have when you take a drug test and they bring it into evidence and they say, oh, Vince tested positive for methamphetamine. I don't care what kind of case it is. If it's a criminal case, it's a CPS case, if it's a family law case, that's not admissible if you object to it. Then, if you object to it, they have to show that it complies, in our case in California, with Kelly Fry. Those are the names of two cases, two
Mm-hmm.
very famous cases about the admissibility of scientific evidence. On your part of the country, Darren, I think they more use the Daubert standard,
I
and and so when the report says, "Oh, Vince tested positive for methamphetamine," what I do, unless my client says, "Well, yeah." I was using methamphetamine. Because if I say
Right.
to my lawyer, "Hey, I was using meth," there's no reason to challenge the drug test, right? It's just
Right.
a waste. You can get spend thousands of dollars on challenging something that's you know a waste of time.
Right.
But if I say to my attorney, "Hey, man, I don't even do meth, or I don't I don't use meth. I didn't use meth," that test is false. Then you
Mhm.
want to go into all of the reasons why it shouldn't be admitted into evidence. And I think I told you guys this was on a couple shows ago, several weeks ago. I was on a case in Northern California, and they said in the report that my client tested positive, and I objected. And the judicial officer, the judge, looks at me, with a very funny look on his face, like, I know you know what you're doing, but what are you talking about? Nobody nobody objects to the drug test when the social worker says basically it's positive, it's positive. I mean, that was the look he gave
Right.
me. And then he
Right.
says to me, he says, "What's your basis for an objection?" And I was waiting for that question. Well, Your Honor, there's no evidence that it meets the Kelly Fry standard. You should have seen the look on his face. Now, he's a smart judge. He now knows that I know what's up.
What the
Be-
yeah.
be- and I only know what's up because of Orochi. I mean, excuse me,
Right.
Okori Okorocha coming on
Right.
the show several months ago,
Hmm.
right? So it all was for naught because in that case, my client ends up testing or admitting to testing positive. All right. But had that not happened, we were
Off
off
to
and
the
running.
races.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that was one of the best presentations of the whole day yesterday. And if you're, again, if you're wondering what we're talking about, we're talking about the seminar that we had yesterday. There's somebody posting the Truth Movement. What does that say? DCFS or DCS CPS expert cooperation, but does not extended cooperation is a two-way street. And also, if you demand that I cooperate, then I demand proof of your claims to the following. Proof to me, one, that I must submit to the agency's administrative rules. Okay, he's going on and on. The Truth
Those
Movement.
rules are mhm.
He's posting a
That's
lot. I
right.
can't
He's
keep up
playing
with you.
right. I mean, I think like they're talking about, there's that. Misty. Misty's a good one. I like Misty. I talk to her often. But I think he's talking about, the codes and statutes are meant for the government policy. The policy of codes and statutes are all about this. Those are meant to be according to constitutionalists and everything. Those things are made and created to keep the government in line with itself. Which you're not supposed to be. We as people aren't supposed to be held up to codes and statutes and all of that stuff. Um, so I think that's about where he was going with that one. But uh,
Unfortunately, that turns out to be a very weak argument in courtrooms, especially CPS courtrooms.
yeah, I imagine so, right? They do get a lot of these constitutional people that come out and try to tell you, all right, Davis, let's do common law. Like is
Did it,
that
did it, I think I might have told the
because it should
story.
be
Yeah, I think I might have told the story. There's a guy in Northern California, a father, who hired me to represent him. This is maybe a couple years ago. Um, and when he hired me, uh, after he hired me, and he paid a premium to hire me because I really didn't want to go up north to do this particular case at this time of the month, at that time of the month. And he tells me, he says, "Oh, I have the strategy for you that I want you to use." And I'm like, "What strategy?" So he tells me the strategy. He
right.
bought it offline for $49.95. It's a
Yeah,
whole defensive strategy for CPS cases for making constitutional arguments.
yeah,
And so he and I, discussed it and kind of argued back and forth. And finally, I told him, I said, if that's what you want done in your case, okay, I respect that, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to refund the money, which surprised
yeah,
him because he didn't think I would refund his money. but I refunded his money. He says, "Well, good. I'm going to represent myself." And I said, "Okay, man. I wish you the best. Good luck. I don't think it's going to work." About 2 months goes by. He emailed or not emails. He texts me, and he says, "You were right." And at this time, I don't realize who it is, right? Because I didn't have. He wasn't in my contacts. It was just a random
Right,
number. And I'm
right.
like, "Who is this?" And
Right.
he goes, "You were right." He goes, "I got laughed out of court, and I still don't have my daughter." And he says, "And I feel like I've wasted 3 months or 2 months of my life going after something that never was real."
Right.
He said, "It sounded so good when I bought it, and it sounded, like common sense." He says, "But you're right. The judge and none of the other attorneys are interested in those arguments." And
Is
and afterwards, they ordered him. I shouldn't laugh. They ordered him to get a psychological evaluation.
oh, that's terrible. That's
He
awful.
there was nothing wrong with him, but they
Right.
just thought that whoever would come into court, and they knew that I was on the case too, and that I got off.
Mhm.
I guess they thought, well, the guy had hired Davis, then he got fired Davis, and then he comes into court with these, constitutional type arguments, and
Mhm.
they thought he was crazy.
Mm. I mean, is there a way that you can enact common law, or is that just a thing of the past? Is that just not even heard of, just to get it
No,
out of
it's
your
not.
head?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Get it out of
bye
your head.
bye. Right. Perfect.
Everything in at least California and probably most states now is statutory, meaning
Okay.
there's a law from the state legislature. There's a
Okay.
law from Congress. They call those kinds of laws statutes.
Right.
A law, it's statutory. So there's statutory law has supplanted, taken the place of common law. Now, at one time back in our history, was common law used and was it important? Yeah, it was. But, you know, state legislatures and Congress have decided they don't like common law. So we're going to
Right.
replace it with statutes, with actual laws that we as legislators vote on, are passed and signed by the executive, either the governor of the state or the president of the United States. So that's the real law. The only thing that you can say, sometimes statutes are found to be uh, unconstitutional or improper or illegal. And those are laws that are determined by the courts, the appellate courts in your state or in the country, the federal appellate courts. Absent that, you might as well go use witchcraft in these cases and see if that
Right.
works.
Right.
Get a voodoo doll of
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
CPS worker. You know,
Mr. Davis, stop. You got it on me already.
so
Well, anyway, so I guess that's for the truth movement. That was I tried to get the most I could out of Mr. Davis about that type of subject. So that's
I
what we
mean,
got from there.
it's really an argument in intellectual, um, almost masturbation to discuss, that those old common law theories because they
Right.
just don't, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, they just don't apply anymore.
Well, I mean, you have the ones you have that they say it can't be a crime or it can't be anything because it doesn't have a victim. If there's not a victim, then there's no crime. If there's like the same thing with CPS, like they can't be a crime charged to you if there's no victim. And
Hmm.
I know that they've figured out the laws have figured out a way to change that. Or what did the old time mafia guys call it? No case, no face, no case, right? Isn't that what they said? Like those type things. But I think that was all enacted about common law too, was it not? Like, okay, we don't have a victim here, so there can't be a crime. And I see a
No,
lot of people talking about that and trying to put that involved into a CPS case, and it's by me. I'm a pretty smart dude, but it's by me how these people speak like this. And I keep asking, why? If you can't tell me why, then I don't accept your answer. So like, how do you get common law into maritime law or to equity law you can't, like you don't jump these hoops.
there's one way you can do it. You can take the common law, turn it into a statute, and get it passed by your state legislature or by Congress. That's how you
So
can
we
do it.
could
You could
so
bring
we
them
could
back.
put a bill out. Right. So we
Yeah.
could put a bill out to say that we want to bring back common law or reenacted whatever. So that's what we got to push for on that the our run here for the next election, people.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Davis just told us how to get common law back, so let's do it.
The truth movement, the current Supreme Court of the United States is relying on the old law, or am I wrong in that? No, you're not wrong. And as a matter of fact, that is another way to bring back common law, is for an appellate court to say, hey, I don't care what the statute says. This is the law of the land, or this is how we
Mm-hmm.
interpret that statute, which means it could be old common law. You know, what a lot of people don't want to accept, and I didn't want to accept this before law school, but I come to learn this. You know, there are three forms of government in our country. Give you the civics high school class. There's the judicial, the legislative, and the executive, right? Well, the judicial tells us what the statutes that the legislature enact, what it means. And sometimes they decide things that I don't think the legislature intended. But because they believe, the judiciary believes that it should be enacted or interpreted that way, that becomes the law of the land. And you know, you'll see a lot of appellate cases say, if we're wrong, the first thing Congress will do, or your state legislature will do, was pass a law to correct or to tell us that we're wrong. And once they pass that law, that'll become the law of the land. You know, people think that the judicial system or part of our government is not political, and that's false. It was formed by the framers of our Constitution, and it was always meant to be political. It's just as political as the legislature. It's just as political as the executive branch. So to think that it's not political and that its decisions aren't made for political reasons is just not true. You know, not true. So people are people, and you know, we all read things differently and interpret things differently. And you know, that's why it's so important to, you know, political parties, who's controlling the Supreme Court? Is it the liberals or is it the conservatives? Right? Is it the state rights people or is it you know, the federal government? You know, that's been the fight since the beginning of time for our country,
Mm-hmm.
right? We went through a long period of the Supreme Court of the United States being controlled by a liberal faction. Long period, decades. Now things, like everything else in the law, have swung back the pendulum, and now it's the conservatives. But you know what will happen in the next decade or two? It'll swing back,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the swings come over decades, but they swing back and forth, just like anything else in politics. They swing back and forth.
And we got to just vote for it. Just got to
That well,
vote for it.
well, that's how you control it because
Right.
you know the Supreme Court is the guy or gal is appointed by the president of the United States, but you ultimately control it because you vote for the president, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court has to be confirmed by Senate vote. Well, you vote for your senators, right?
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, it's left in the people's hand because of the vote. But you know, um, there were several conservative judges or conservative presidents in the recent past that appointed a lot of people, you know, to the Supreme Court. And now
Mm-hmm.
I think the conservatives have a 6-3 margin. You know, it's going to be a long time, decades, you know, before that changes. But
Yeah, they
your grandchildren, you know, Darren, will probably see a liberal court, and then their grandchildren will probably see a conservative court. It just
we
keeps
got to
going
see
back.
if I get a grandchild first. We got to get my child back before I can have a grandchild, Mr. Davis.
Or have more kids.
Yeah, well, let's come on with that. I'm not getting any younger either. I mean,
You know, don't you hear about those guys that, you know, like they're 60, 65 that are having kids?
yeah, I have a hard enough getting out of bed now. You can't imagine. And then
You
there's
know,
the whole making the kid thing too. You know, like come on, there's
well,
a
you
whole process that goes.
gotta
Got
get
to
a
shake.
protein shake. Protein shake.
Yeah. What he's got in there? Spinach and banana and some broccoli with some
No, no,
beetroot.
no. It's just that is actually just 2 scoops of isopure protein powder and two
Hmm.
scoops of collagen.
Oh,
So it's about
what does that
70 grams of protein.
what does that help you with in your brain, your body, everything? Is it specialized in anything?
Well, I'm told that it will help in weight control.
I've just
I'm
been hearing this
told
too.
that it will keep the muscle mass there, and the testosterone up, you know. So that's the hope.
Hey, Misty asked me a question. I'm looking for it right now. Remember Misty that was watching this, and she had asked me a question yesterday, and I didn't get back to her, and I wasn't being rude. But maybe if I can find it here, I can get this question from her, or
Was
maybe she
she
can post the question.
was she one of the attendees yesterday?
No, she wasn't an attendee yesterday, but she watches your show all the time, and she just posted. Misty Lynn was her, and she had just said hello everybody or whatever. And then I thought of that. But you know what else? How about the gentleman from Boston? What was his name?
Kevin Seaver. Kevin Seaver.
Kevin Seaver. Yes, we'll have to get you that hat to get to him, or is that the hat for you? Because I do have one of those hats. But what a great accent, huh?
Attorney Kevin Seaver. He's the man in Boston
Yeah,
for CPS cases.
yeah. But like his accent, his talk, his everything. Like he's just a man you don't mess with, huh? He's
He's no
he's
nonsense.
no man. You just that guy. If you don't, yeah, I mean, just tells you how it is. That's it. Don't walk into his dance trying to take his dance over because it ain't happening, man. That guy is just straightforward, awesome,
You
smash
know,
mouth lawyer.
I remember one time I referred somebody in Boston to him for a CPS case. And they called me back and they said, "Hey, Mr. Davis, this guy, he's not as nice as you." And
Yeah,
I said, "Well, if you want the Vince Davis of Boston, you hire him."
right. Do you want nice or do you want to win? Like,
Right. But
no, he was.
think about it. All the attorneys that presented yesterday, think about this. They were all different.
Yep.
All different.
Yeah,
And it,
and then
and it
art
just
in the
showed.
morning. Art was great.
Yeah.
Art was just a listen. I left so angry yesterday that seminar because knowing there was so much that we didn't do in our case. There was so much that we didn't know that we had rights to ask for. Like, and it was really good because everybody kind of picked and choose their own thing. Like Art really festered on that 72-hour hearing. Like he really hammered in on and honed in on that whole topic about the ins and outs of it without even anybody knowing, unless you established that. But like it was because everybody kind of did their things. But there was so much information. Actually, there's probably too much information packed into that to the day that you wouldn't have to have the thing to watch it over a couple of times to actually consume everything that happened.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Somewhat
Like there's
a couple people have texted me already and said, "Hey, I missed the seminar, blah blah blah. How can I get a video of it?" And I initially said you can't, but I Grace thinks that we should, go ahead and sell the tape because it did have a lot of information, and even if you watched it, you might have got drained watching it because there was so much coming at you, just information coming at you.
right. I tell you what, it was pretty awesome. And I think if we could keep that standard and then keep building off of that, I mean, it would be cool to get, at least one or two returning, guys, um, there's Karen asking, see, everybody, this is a hot topic, man.
Karen,
Grace, where's this video?
Grace is off today. Karen, there
Uh,
isn't there isn't a link to the seminar. However, I'm going to talk to Grace about selling the seminar. I think it was about like 7 hours, wasn't it, Darren?
yeah, it was good. And it was packed. It wasn't no fooling around. It was straight up information. It wasn't, talking about your dog or
Yeah.
anything like
I
that. It
think
was right up.
I think we took 2 breaks, one for 10 minutes and one for 20 minutes, a 20-minute lunch break. But other than that, it was, just information coming at you. And
Yep.
one of the best presenters yesterday um, was Connie from Tennessee, and then Cynthia Becker and Aaron Carranza.
Yeah.
Uh, they had, and what I liked about it, it's just for me, visual purposes. Both Connie and Aaron and Cynthia had a PowerPoint presentation that was able to
Yep.
be shown right on the screen, and I thought that was very effective. And that's something that I'm going to have to implement to make my presentations better. Because if not, I'm just talking at you. It's just more and more
You looked good.
information. You know, more and more information, but it's not something that, unless you're really taking good notes or you bought the link for the seminar, um, it's just too much. It's just too
Hmm.
much for you to go back and try to understand. So
Especially if you're not a lawyer, especially
right,
if you're just the common person, and you want to just you got some questions, or you need to. I mean, you learned every bit of from start to finish yesterday that you could have anything that you would have needed to know that you would have thought that they copped you out of. You learned about yesterday. I mean, you really did. And then some things more than others. Like with Double O. I mean, how much? Oh, there she is. There's Misty. Misty, ask Mr. Davis the question you were asking me. But it was freaking. It was just awesome. It was really awesome. And
wait.
of course, that's all the players too.
Well, here's something I'm a little concerned about. I wish I could have been part of the seminar, but didn't know about it till yesterday. Misty, I thought we did a good job informing everyone, marketing these upcoming seminar. You might have
Yeah,
fallen off the face of the earth if
she
you
might have
didn't
missed
know about
the.
the
Yeah,
seminar.
right. We tried really hard but now we know it's the first Saturday. So now we know it's the first Saturday of every month. So we can all mark it up ahead of times right now through December. Sure, Mr. Davis will have them all packaged up for Christmas time to buy for your loved ones.
Misty, I mean, Karen says, would like to hear from attorneys who are or willing to fight. They are rare.
They were there yesterday, that's for sure.
Hey, Karen, we had a presenter on yesterday. His name is Art Lasalento. He and I do a lot of trials together. As a matter of fact, we have a pretty big trial right now going on in Riverside County. And it is very interesting to watch Art, because Art is, he's the kind of guy that will jump on the table and stomp his feet, to make to make his point. Sometimes he fights, he's like way out there. But when we do trials together, we take, this is a strategy he and I developed a long time ago. It's the good guy, bad guy routine. Because we're going against the social worker, we're trying to convince the judge, and it's always, good to have, that combination going for you. Say something interesting, because I'm getting a call. I have to tell them I'm on this seminar or on the.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so yesterday was definitely Karen. I'll vouch for Mr. Davis, and I'm not just blowing smoke up people's behinds here, because I know you and I have spoken before, and we talked. These guys were real deal, 100% warriors, no doubt about it. Like I would love to be able to see what they do in the courtroom, because I bet they tear people up. There's no doubt about it. Uh, how much would it cost if you like to get a copy?
You know what?
David,
We
why is
haven't even we haven't even talked about it. And Grace is off today. Sunday is her one day off, and she doesn't answer her phone on Sundays. But what I will do is, David, tomorrow I will ask her, and on tomorrow's show we'll talk about it, and maybe even put out a link where you can get a copy of the seminar. Okay. I have been super busy with my case, so I haven't been on here much. Oh, Misty, I'm so sorry. I hope things are going well on your case. Hey, Darren, what state is Misty from?
I believe she's from Montana or Missouri. I think it's Montana, right? I'm pretty sure it's Montana. She's out in the Midwest. Um, Let me see. I was trying to look there, and then you got me sidetracked. Misty, if you have a question, Mr. Davis, I'm sure we'll fancy it for you.
Yeah, Misty, you just
If not,
post
I'm
your
gonna try to.
question. Our guest today is from Michigan, and I think she had some technical difficulties. She was on at the beginning of the show before we went live, and then we lost her. Grace,
Goodness.
if you hear about this show or you review this, try to get her back on. She
There we
seemed like
go.
she was going to be a good guest. All right, here's
Oh, this
Misty.
is what the question was. Yes, there you go. I can't believe I'm sorry. I forgot that's what it was. I just found it too. So the day of Okori. I know it's on there right now because I saw it. Just watched it the other day.
Misty, you can find that, but you know, I don't have any. I don't personally have links to the shows by dates. You can probably email Grace at vincentwdavis.com, and maybe she'll respond tomorrow and give you that link. The other thing you can do is, you know, Corey is a lawyer, and if you have questions, you might want to Google him, call him, and you know, see if you can get a free consult or something.
Yeah, he's
He told us yesterday, and this was as a result of a couple conversations I had. You know, you probably don't know this, but to hire him as an expert in your criminal case or your civil case, he charges a lot of money. And, you know, I didn't really have to explain to him that most people in these types of cases can't afford those fees and everything. And he gave us, I guess, what I will call a discounted price for CPS cases, not just me, anybody that calls him. And I don't know if you remember this, Darren, but I asked him very specifically, how much would you charge a CPS case to review the findings, to write a report yourself about the findings, and come to court to testify? Okay. Now, if I ask him to do that in a civil case, we're probably talking about $25,000.
mm,
Okay. He told us he would give us those three for $3,500 because, you know, I've explained to him and he knows people in these cases don't have that kind of money. You know, they're not
well.
arguing about $1 million or $10 million. They're arguing about their kids, which is probably
mm,
worth more, but they just don't have the income
Wasn't he
to do
saying that
that.
he was like $6,500 a day or something like that? 5,700 just a day to be into court or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's just to go down. Now he charges
right,
that on DUI cases, you know, because
right.
a lot of people get DUIs that can't have DUIs on their record for whatever reason. Let me give you an example. I'm an FBI agent and I can't have a DUI
Right.
conviction, right? I need to hire the best attorney out there and get the best expert. There was a guy, unfortunately, he passed away in a plane crash.
Oh
I
Lord.
won't say his name, but he's an attorney here. He was an attorney here in Los Angeles County, and I met him as part of the Jerry Spence Trial Lawyers College. And he only did DUIs, but he didn't do regular DUIs. I mean, if you had a big case and you really needed to get the DUI conviction or, you know, to win the case, you'd hire him. And you know, his retainer, get this, his retainer for a DUI was thirty to $40,000.
Holy
The regular,
smokes.
right, the regular DUI guy will charge you about $5,000.
Right. Woo.
But when you hired this guy, you were hiring, you know, the Bentley. This was not
Right.
a Cadillac. This was not a Chevy. This was not a
Right.
Toyota or a Nissan. You were hiring the Bentley class. And I
Hmm.
wouldn't say that he had 100% victories, but he was very, very good. And if you wanted to get, what do they call that, reasonable doubt,
He could.
he was the guy that could get the reasonable doubt.
Mhm.
You know, because he used to tell me, he says, Vince, I only got to convince one person out of 12 to win the
Yeah, I
case.
mean, yeah.
Because
He's
DUIs
a
aren't the type of case that they usually retry. You know, murder case, hung jury, you know,
right.
11 to 1. DA may say, well, this I'm going to have this retried. Right? It costs a lot of money for the DA to do a case. DUI case, 11 to 1, you know, 10 to 2. The guy just got
Get
off.
out. Right. Get
Got
out of
off.
here with it. Right.
Right. He just got off. So he was an extraordinary attorney, and unfortunately, he died in an airplane crash. He used to fly up and down California, going to do cases, and he went to. I think he went to visit somebody, some witnesses, and he took off on a day that was very foggy, and he literally flew into the mountainside.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
And I think there were 2 other people with him, another attorney and maybe a paralegal from his office. It was
Oh,
tragic. It was tragic.
that's too bad. They probably
Yeah.
looked for him, had a good search party and everything, still couldn't find him. That
Oh,
sucks.
they found the plane. They found. They
Oh, did
say,
they?
I mean, this is not a good thing, but they say that everyone, in the plane died on impact
Right.
because it was
Well, yeah,
the
I
side
mean,
of a mountain, he just didn't see it, and he flew right into it.
right, foggy day, you don't see that
Yeah.
coming up. But and you guys have a lot of bears and everything else out in your woods, don't you? I mean, it's a tough survival game if you're up there in the mountains. Like
Mm. I don't know if we
oof.
have bears or not. I don't go in the
You,
mountains.
oh, that's the other part of California that
I
you don't
I
see
don't
every day.
where I go, there's pavement and, concrete and asphalt.
Buildings.
I don't mess around with wild animals. I used
Right.
to be
Yeah.
you may not know this about me, but when I was a young kid, I was a big swimmer. I even swam for my high school, which is a big, Catholic high school here in LA, and, used to go to the beach all the time, go swimming way out there, and then Jaws happened, movie, and to the right now, if I go to the beach, I'm in ankle deep water. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, that's great whites. They'll get you every time.
And, there's
Oh
always
man.
shark bites you hear about on the news
Oh,
here on the West Coast. I just don't go
you
out to
know,
the b I mean, I go out
yeah,
there
I
anymore.
don't no, I don't do it anymore. Lakes. I don't need those things. Eels and all the stuff when I was a kid I'd pick up and put in my mouth. I don't want nothing to do with any of them anymore. It's just it's just awful. Right.
Here's something, do you know any attorney in Washington State that would do in 1983 again, a civil rights, try Paula Davenport? Have you ever heard of Paula? I haven't.
No, no, no. I don't know who Paula Davenport is, and does that come off of the Truth guys, Truth Movement question?
I don't know.
That's I don't know either.
Andrea
Andrea.
says, "Hello, how are you? I'm doing fine. How are you, Andrea? Should I meet with this caseworker even though I'm being harassed by them and they keep saying that I'm going to get visits but not follow through?" Well, Andrea, if you were in California, this would I would tell you. You should meet with them with your attorney, especially if you are saying that they are harassing you. Amanda says, "Do you know any good attorneys in Ohio that will fight CPS and take an appeal to the Supreme Court?" I'm sure there are. Ohio's a big state. Problem because always the cost. You know, do you have $1,000 or do you have $20,000 or $100,000? You
Yeah, the
know,
appeals make the price tag go way up too. I've noticed. Looking for an actual appeals attorney is really something to find one that deals in appeals and then in CPS on top of it. You're talking about a huge amount of money, which is I'm assuming that's why like you said, when you call at the end or something, if someone called you to do an appeal, I mean, that's just, are you looking at astronomical dollars just from the gates for you?
well, it depends. It depends on number one where the appeal is. I mean, are we talking downtown Los Angeles, 30
Right. Or
minutes
coming to
away?
Maine.
Or going
Right.
to Maine to do it. So
Right.
that's
Right.
that's the big one.
Right.
And then, if I come to Maine, I have to apply for Pro Hoc Vice status, you know. And I was talking to someone actually from Washington not too long ago. Do you know how much it costs me to take a case in another state like Washington? Right from the get. Forget travel, nothing, just the application process. Do you have any idea?
$1,500, 1,500, $2,000.
Okay. The application fee is, I believe, a little less than $500, but
Okay.
that's only the tip of the iceberg. Most states require me to partner up with a local counsel. They call it the local counsel. That typically, on the cheap side, is $2,500. because that local
Wow.
council actually has to do something. It has to make representations to the state and to the judge that I'm going to watch Vince and I'm going to hold his hand and make sure that he, stays in his lane.
Right.
Then here's the big cost. Most states require me to get insurance for that
Huh.
state. That's about a $35 or $4,000 cost. So right off the bat, we got four,
Wow.
we got 25, that's 60. We got
Eight. Yeah.
$7,000 right off the bat for me to even get admitted to practice in that state. Most
Wow.
people call me up and they want to pay me $4 or $5,000 to do everything.
Right. Wow.
If I do,
8,000 just to go.
if I do everything, just when I sign you up, I'm losing $3,000.
Right. You're just three. Right.
Forget the work, forget the
Right.
research, the
The
writing,
time and all that. Right.
the printing, traveling up there, for the oral argument. Forget all that.
Yep. Wow. That's crazy. $8,000 roughly just to get you to just
Just to
begin.
get it going, just to get it going.
Right. So that's just you start sign this dotted line. We're negative 8,000 right now.
No,
Like let's
no,
build
no.
up from there.
Say they pay me three. I mean 5. I'm
Right.
negative 3.
Right. And then they're going to come back and say, "Well, I gave you 5,000 already. Well, we didn't even get through the application process,
Right,
yeah,
right.
let alone everything else." It's crazy. That's insanity. But I mean, hey, if you want to win, it's the price of winning, man. It's just it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but it is what it is. Like your education wasn't free, your knowledge isn't free, nothing's free, and if you're gonna win, you need to pay. I mean, that's just it. I mean,
Anything else you want to mention about our seminar or Zoom seminar yesterday?
the only thing I'd say is stay tuned because the next one's got to be better than the first, and the first one was pretty awesome.
I have a mental block about something. How do you pronounce Connie's last name?
Ruguli,
Okay, I thought that's what I
Ruguli,
said.
Ruguli. She said Ruguli, right? Ruguli.
Well,
Karen, am I
that's the
right? Karen, if Karen Cook's watching, she'll tell us if we're right because she's good friends with Connie. But I think that's what she said was Ruguli because we said it and she said I'll help him with that. And I think that's what she said, Ruguli or Ruguli, one of those two. Uh,
and the topic that she presented on, I asked her to present on, was the politics of CPS, and that was such a great presentation she did.
oh, it's awesome. She's just awesome. I mean, with the things that she does, and she just got that, that just I'm going ahead with this. Take me down if you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going for my goals. Like she's definitely one that I'd like to see a lot more of. Like see what and see. She doesn't care about notoriety or any of that stuff. She just wants to get these kids home. And she's proved that over and over.
Mhm.
Like that's her game.
I don't know if you know this. You probably don't even know this. She's a frequent guest on Cynthia Becker's show, CPS The Horror Stories. Did you know
Oh,
that?
is she really? No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
I just started watching Cynthia's show just last week actually, and so now I guess I'll catch up on some of those episodes. Um,
And Cynthia used to work with me many years ago. She left and came back. But we had started a show. Get this. The show was moderated by Cynthia's, I think she was like 10-year-old daughter at the time. Okay.
yeah.
And the show was only for kids to come on and share their experiences in CPS foster care.
Oh,
Because,
that's a good thing.
we talk a lot in court about what's happening in foster homes and what's not happening and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, it would be a really good idea if we heard from kids. Now, here's one of the problems with this case, doing that show. It couldn't be kids who had an open CPS case. It had to be a closed case,
Yeah.
and we had to have the signed permission of the parent. Still, with those hurdles, there were a lot of families and a lot of kids that wanted to be on to tell their CPS
Yeah,
story. And many of them were truly horror stories. We think we put these kids in foster homes and everything's peachy keen.
right.
That's
Well,
not
we know
true.
that that's
It's not,
not true. Right.
it's not true. And
Yeah.
it's something that I think that we should be looking at or paying attention to, because
Yeah.
if we truly are here to help kids, why take them out of a bad situation
Put them
and
in a
put them
worse
in a
one.
worse situation?
Mhm.
It's like you're in the frying pan, but now we're going to put you in the fire, and
And
that'll that's
you didn't even do anything wrong. Just think
right.
about it that way. These children have done nothing. Zip zero zero. So they're one day they're sleeping in their bed, they're at home. They don't know that mom and dad got drunk and crashed a car or whatever. This whole thing's going on, and all of a sudden they're just swiped out. And that's it.
There was a story. It's been a long time, but let me see if I have this right. They take two kids, brother and sister, who are like 6 and 7. Okay, and they're very close. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of research being done. Apparently, your relationship with your siblings is closer and more important than your relationship with your parent.
Wow.
Did you ever think of that?
No.
Okay, so this 6 and 7-year-old were taken away from the parent, single mom,
Hmm.
because she tested positive for, I forget what it was, if it was meth or
Right.
cocaine or something. Okay, she tested positive. Nothing had happened to the kids. They were being fed, clothed, bathed. They showed up at school. There seemed to be no problem. Is it the perfect situation? No. Is it a situation where we should take kids away? Probably
Mm,
not.
I'm not right.
We should be focusing on mom, helping her battle this
Right.
issue.
Yep.
Well, they took these two kids and they separated them. Their entire lives together, they lived together and slept in the same room. They were
It's terrible.
truly best friends. Then, horrors of all horrors, in the separate foster homes, they were abused.
Ah,
Now, mom had never abused the kids. She
right.
tested positive for an illegal substance. And wouldn't it be interesting to hear their story?
Yeah.
Now, you think politicians, judges, attorneys who are in this world, should we be concerned about that kind of thing? Is it just collateral damage we can accept?
It shouldn't be. That's for damn sure.
Right. Well, if
Yeah.
you're the kids that this happened to, your life has been changed forever for the worst.
Yep.
And we were allegedly trying to help you.
Hmm.
Allegedly trying to help you. When you're having fun, time goes by really fast.
Yes,
Uh,
we're over.
we're way over. Listen, Darren, I want to thank you for joining me this morning, and
Yes,
I'll
sir.
see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time.
All right.
And everyone, I will talk to Grace by that time, find out what we can do for getting the tape or
Seminar.
the seminar tape, and then we can start talking about next month, first Saturday, and planning for that as well.
All right.
We had a couple of attorneys who would have been great guests, who had to back out at the last minute for some personal reasons. We're going to be calling them and see if they want to join us next month.
See if we can't get a couple Mainers in there too. I got a couple of guys I've been
Oh,
talking to that
okay,
maybe we get them
that's
because
great.
I would love to hear the difference between how you guys out west, like a comparable to the. I've never even heard of the other version, the Kelly Fry. I never even knew that there were names to these things. So this is
Right,
pretty
right.
cool that East and West have a whole different, category about what's legal and what's not. So I'd love to see that comparison.
Right.
Um, to even make it seem like you know what you're talking about when you're arguing with somebody. So,
Alrighty.
all right,
Okay,
Mr.
Darren.
D.
You have
I'll
a
see
good
you
rest
tomorrow
of the
night.
Sunday. See you
You
tomorrow.
too. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.